They'd spent 2 months in jail since being arrested before the riot at the Heysel Stadium.
The two Liverpool supporters had already spent 8 weeks in a Brussels prison as they were led up from the cells this morning to hear the verdict.
John, are you confident then?
Yeah, more confident than I was last week. Never confidence in this country.
John Awork and George Davis were charged with attacking and robbing a ticket tout outside the Heysel Stadium before the European Cup final. But the case against them virtually collapsed last week when first the victim couldn't identify them, then the prosecution wasn't even able to find the gendarmes who arrested them. Today the defence produced witnesses from Liverpool. Stephen Manfredi, who saw the attack on the tout. He told the court Davis and Awork had been nowhere near it. And Paul Johnston, who said he'd been with the defendants all the time and they were innocent. There was an agonising wait as defence barristers spent almost an hour arguing that there was no evidence against the two worth considering. Then the not guilty verdict.
John, pleased with the verdict?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Well, my sympathies go to the people who died, but it's not our fault. We wasn't even involved in it, so we shouldn't have been held in the first place.
With legal formalities to complete, it was thought the two wouldn't actually be freed until Monday. But at the prison, paperwork was rushed through, and late this afternoon their lawyers were able to collect them. Both men now planning to catch the first available ferry home. Paul Davis, ITN, Brussels.
Police in Australia overpowered a gunman who'd held his 2 children hostage at Brisbane Airport, where he'd landed
in Heysel Stadium 8 weeks ago. George Davis and John Awork were cleared after evidence from 2 other Liverpool supporters who travelled back from Britain to speak on their behalf. Clive Ferguson was in court.
John Awork and George Davies approached today's hearing with trepidation. They'd spent 2 months in prison waiting for a Belgian court to decide on their innocence or guilt and were well aware of previous verdicts in cases arising out of events in Heysel Stadium. 2 men who'd been with them that night in Brussels had travelled from England for the hearing. Paul Johnston and Stephen Manfredi told the court that neither Awork or Davies had committed any crime. The defence lawyers said their clients were nothing more than scapegoats. There was no evidence against them and the case had to be dismissed. The judge agreed, finding both men not guilty. But bureaucracy delayed their release, strengthening the bitterness both men already felt.
Even our advocates were telling us all the time that if it wasn't for the fact that what happened in the stadium, we wouldn't have been here in the first place.
Are you bitter about the time you've had to spend inside?
I'm bitter about it, yeah. Because, they've dampened our character irreversibly. We can't do nothing about it. This verdict now has proved us that we're innocent. I just hope that we can get back and live our lives again normally. Thanks a lot.
It's thought the men may now try to sue the Belgian authorities for compensation for their 2 months behind bars. This is Clive Ferguson for the 6 o'clock news in Brussels.
In India, Sikhs gathering to signing of a 2 months in a Belgian jail. The charges against 34-year-old George Davis from Walton and Liverpool-born John Awork were dropped when the Brussels public prosecutor admitted that there was no real evidence against them. Both defendants were arrested on the day of the European Cup final, in which crowd violence claimed 38 lives. Today, they told the court they were being held responsible for the riot because they were Liverpool fans.
Yes, definitely, yeah. My sympathies go to the people who died, but it's not our fault. We wasn't even involved in it, so we shouldn't have been held in the first place.
When are they actually letting you go?
He said 4 o'clock, but it still might be a couple of more days to organise whatever they do before they can release you.
Industrial News.